I heard a story when I was traveling. I can't remember now who told me. It's a little vignette. They said it was true. I don't know the details, but it's apocryphal, if not literal. The introduction is longer than the story. There was a man, and he had a terrible accident. And instead of being grievously injured or killed, he came away with very minor difficulties and soon recovered. Sometime after that, he consulted an astrologer. And when he gave his birth information to the astrologer and the astrologer cast the chart, he said, "This is pointless. There's no point in my reading this horoscope. This person is dead." And the man said, "That's my horoscope." And then the astrologer, who was very wise, said, "Who is your guru?" Because he understood that karma, preordained from the moment of his birth, dictated death. And some of that karma was going to express itself, and the accident happened, but somehow in the midst of that, the power of the guru was greater than the force of karma, greater than the force of material forces colliding. And the astrologer knew from his knowledge of the science, which is the science of astrology, is the heavens manifest the pattern in the chakras. This is one of the ancient truths that is less known. That doesn't mean that every astrologer can read that pattern, but the chakras correspond to the signs and to the planets, and the energy in the chakras dictates the moment when you will be born, when the external heavens match the internal world. So if the astrologer has the knowledge and the intuition, much of which has been lost from the highest age when this started, they see that inevitably this is how the energy will express. In the life of Yogananda, he also said, excuse me, God always plays with me when I start. He said, before you become a disciple, until you are consciously attuned to your guru, karma follows a logical pattern. One thing follows another, follows another, follows another. As soon as you become a disciple, all the rules are gone. The masters play with this world just the way children play and make, this is the Hollywood movie studio, and I'm the great actress, and you're my adoring fan, and then everybody plays the game, just like the children in their own minds, it's real. An interesting fact is sometimes when children have this great idea, a little child will come out and say, Mommy, watch me dance, and the child is totally lost in it, and the parent tries to be supportive, but sometimes the child actually remembers when they were a beautiful dancer. And so the infatuation, the way they're lost in the experience is not the body they have, but it's the body they remember having. And that's why they come forward that way. I've never in this incarnation been involved in painting or sculpture or anything like that, except when I was 4 years old with my friend next door, we decided to do sculpture, which involved putting water into dirt. And I remember my piece was 3 round balls stacked up on each other like a snowman. And I remember trying so hard to get my mother to put it into the oven, and then I wanted to have it bronzed. I didn't even know what bronze was, but somehow that's what I wanted. And I knew it was an important piece of art. And I remember that. How many years ago is that? More than 70 years? I vividly remember my feeling about those 3 little balls of mud. Even in my mind, I can still see them. Because we are so much more. We come in with this force of energy that's going to carry us, and we have a certain amount of influence over it, but honestly not very much. The way Yogananda put it, he said, It's very hard to tell the difference between that which is karmically committed and the power we have to influence. He said only the masters can really tell how much choice we have. But you see, the masters have a great deal of choice. And that's why we're celebrating Christmas, is because people remember, even if we don't remember with our minds or with history books, the soul remembers that there is a completely different power which is actually running this world. And we try so hard, with our education and our smarts and our this and our that and our investments and our taking care of our families and all of these different things. We try to exercise our own place. We want to set up all the right causes and effects so it'll come out the way that we want. And the masters watch us, and they actually think it's kind of adorable, just the same way that we think it's charming. I'm sure my mother was charmed by my insistence that those 3 mud balls had to be saved for posterity. And we're charmed when our little child gets a scarf and dances. And we know that they're just playing, but it's serious for them. Do you think we look actually any different to the masters? With all of our wanting this and wanting that and saying this is what we need to be happy and this is who I am. But the masters just come through like meteors, is how Swami called it. He said Master was like a meteor streaking across the sky, just creating this force of energy that long after all the humans who witnessed it have passed away, the power of that persists. Look at us here with this devotion to Jesus, which is not sentiment. The reason there is so much devotion to Jesus is because he is as much with us now as he ever was. Master said that where a master has stood, those vibrations last forever because they are the only true thing that's really happening. Swami said something to us once that was just so, it made such a profound impression. He said, when the moment of liberation comes, when we have finally persuaded ourselves of what was always true, it's so hard for us to understand because this world seems so intensely real. And the time span in which we live has so much force. And people come in and out of it, they live and they die. But while we're in it, it's so hard for us to realize it's just a wave on the ocean. And the ocean is the one that we have always been. And so the masters come in and they present to us Jesus Christ was born to present to us not who he was. This is how we misunderstand that the point is the greatness of Jesus. That which I do, ye shall do, and greater things, he says. Why do you call me master? Do not the scriptures also say that ye are gods? This information, this understanding has been kept alive in more explicit form through the Bhagavad Gita. But it's equally present in the Bible because Jesus was a master. And he came and he said, this is who you are. And then he showed us with such magnificence who we really are. And not just in some awe-inspiring sort of way, but with the whole heart of joy. So it isn't just some distant relationship where we admire on the mountaintop and are slightly frightened and hope that he doesn't notice us, but just the opposite, like a mother and a child, like a father and a son. That's what we're looking at. And what Swami said, he said, when that moment of liberation comes, he said, we look back over all these incarnations and the numbers are in the billions. It's very unpleasant to think about that, but it doesn't make any difference because here we are now. But we have to go through all the different levels of every delusion that there is. We don't take anybody else's word for it. And if you think about your life, you realize that's true. You have to have your own experience. We have to test the waters and find out, will this satisfy me? Will this satisfy me? Will this satisfy me? Think about the way your mind works now. Where does your mind go? I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm grief-stricken because this has been taken away from me. I'm upset because that didn't go the way I wanted it to go. And what is behind all those thoughts? What's behind it is, I would be happier if. I would be happier if. And that's what keeps us bound here. I would be happier if. And our comment today, God remembrance, we don't make anything happen. We just stop forgetting what is true. We don't even remember. We just stop forgetting. You know, we think that we're weak and we're small, but we're not. We're the infinite source. And this is what I keep coming back to, what Swami said. When we are suddenly free and we see all of that, it's just, you can't even, the human mind just balks. And we try to make up other stories. It can't possibly be true. But they all say it is. That's the only thing I can say to it. You look back at all those incarnations, and you realize it was just waves on the sea. That's the image that's always used, because it's so powerful. There's the ocean. There's the power of the depth of that enormous force, and then it rises up. And here we are. We've risen up from the sea. And we tend to think of greatness as the more we stand out. Yogananda put it differently. His master said, the great ones are the ones who are closest to the sea and who are not operating on some tiny little bit that's been stretched out from the source, but are operating from the source, which also gives you the opportunity to see everything. Everything is the same power. It just takes this form for a time and this form for a time. And Swami said we look back and we just see it was all just waves on the sea, that none of it ever really happened to me. It happened, but the thought that it was me, I was always the great ocean, never changed by that experience. He said, however, the one thing we will see, like pearls on a thread, is every time we stopped forgetting. Every time, just for a moment, it broke through. And we realized, oh, I'm not this weak, troubled, and I don't have to wait and be happy if. My own nature now is simply bliss. This is who I was born to be. This is all that I am. This is all that I have ever been. The fascinating thing about these teachings, and I speak to you now from more than 50 years, when I was 20, 50 sounded like a big number. Trust me, when you're past 70, it doesn't sound like such a big number anymore. Because it's always now. We're always ourselves. There's just this, I've mentioned this before, but I can't think about this too much because it will upset my mental balance. The fact that I'm always me is just so stunningly inescapable, no matter where I go. No matter where I go, and I've been a lot of places lately, no matter who I'm with, I'm always there. Do you not think this is odd? I think it's very odd. It's always seems so odd to me. But the good news is it's not really happening. The good news, it's just a wave on the ocean. And whether it's this face or this name or this voice or this history, if I stop forgetting, and if I give up the idea that it's just this little story. But in all of this, throughout human history, and this is how the Gita describes it, this is where the Gita is the value, the treasure house of wisdom. Whenever virtue declines and vice predominates, I, the infinite spirit, take visible form to destroy evil and restore virtue. Well, if you really think about that, those avatars are not doing a very good job of destroying evil, because there have been a lot of avatars and there's a lot of evil, right? So on one hand, if you think of it as some sort of world conquering, everybody's going to get free at the same time, they're pretty much a dud. So either the scriptures are not telling us the truth, or there's a very different story here. And there is a different story. Of course there's a different story. In Yogananda's poem, is it God's Boatman, I think is the one, or whatever the prayer is, it doesn't matter. I will come again and again, he says, 1,000,000,000 times if necessary, crossing crags of suffering with bleeding feet. Every time I read that, I think, oh, sir, really, bleeding feet, crags of suffering. But he gets the point across, doesn't he? It's pretty darn vivid. And you're getting an idea of what the Master's commitment, think about that, their commitment to us. And that line ends with, as long as one stray brother lingers by the wayside. Now, who can love like that? Who can love like that? We do our very best because I would be happier if, so I try. We try to love one another. We try to be loyal. But a million times over crags of suffering to pick up one brother? Now that's what real love is. And he's promising that to us. That was the same promise Jesus made. That's the promise every avatar made. They come to liberate us. And the evil that is ascendant and the virtue that has declined, yes, it manifests in the rise and fall of civilizations, of which there have been a bunch, and we may witness a few more before our incarnations are over here. But the real rise and fall is in the human heart. This whole story, which seems so important to us, has one purpose: to teach us who we really are. Every experience we have, this is what Swami means when he says it didn't happen. It didn't happen in the way that we thought it was happening. We think the external realities are the defining force, but they are not. It is who we are in our hearts, and nothing else matters. And that's where that single relationship between the soul and the divine, and the soul and the master, dominates everything. That's why the astrologer can say, this person is dead. No, they're not dead. I'm standing in front of you. Oh, then, who's your guru? What would cause him to go from a complete playing with the material world like it was a sandbox? The karma is absolute, but ho, no, it's not. And think about what that means for us. Think about the power of this time, of Jesus' birth, of his coming. And we have song after song after song, and none of this existed in the lifetime of Christ. This is the part that just so fascinates me. None of it was there. He didn't build some giant multinational corporation and advising governments and telling presidents what to do. Absolutely nothing like that. Of course, he was executed like a criminal in the most ignominious possible, insulting, appalling way. But nobody wrote songs to the people who killed him. And on the surface of it, it looked like nothing happened. But everything happened. Everything happened because it was that shining light that said, that which I do, ye shall do, and greater things. Let us not be hypnotized by the present moment. Let us not be overcome by all of the painful, grief-producing, heartbreaking experiences that are somehow part of this wave that we're riding. Each one of them is given to us for one purpose: to awaken within us this power that says, no, it's not true. Sometimes I comfort myself with a very simple phrase which means everything. I am the disciple of a great master. And the emphasis is on the great master, but I am a disciple. That word is so exquisite. If whether you know who your master is or not, you have a master. And all of us can belong to any master that we open our heart to, and they're not partial. Yogananda used to, when he was in Los Angeles, there was a district called the Bowery is what it was called then. It was the, whatever you would call it, the place where people who were down on their luck gathered, and a place where there were a lot of bars and a lot of people would drink. They would try to extinguish their own consciousness with intoxicants so they didn't have to feel what they were feeling. And he would just walk up and down on those blocks. Nobody was asking him to give a lecture about Sanatana Dharma. He wasn't initiating into Kriya. He was just walking back and forth. And what he was doing is he was radiating light. So those who were ready to awaken, to stop forgetting who their true nature was, he would plant in them a tiny seed. Edgar Cayce, who was a great psychic who lived in the 1940s, at least one of the readings, several of the readings he gave for people, he read their past lives. He told this one woman, he said, "You were on the street of Jerusalem, Jesus walked by. You did not speak to him, you did not become a follower of his, but as he walked by, he looked at you, and you looked at him." 2,000 years and all the incarnations in between, he said, you have been working from that moment. That was the defining factor in everything that's happened since. Now, maybe we were standing on the streets of Jerusalem. It's highly possible. But we are sitting in this temple now with the powers of the Master as present here as they will ever be. Nothing changes. The only thing that changes is our willingness to stop forgetting. So we come together to celebrate the life of Christ because it is the only thing worth celebrating. That these masters incarnate and they are looking for us. Every so often I see on a telephone pole, lost kitten, and then there's a picture of some like this, and then, Muffy will come if you call her, please call us. And every time I look at that, I think, we give our hearts, it's very real. We give our hearts. The owner of a cat searches for the cat. Do you think the master who loves us will ever stop searching for us? Do you think in the astral world there's a big, big chart and we're all on it, right? Every one of us is there, and a little description of inclined to favor music, too much into dance, problem with alcohol, just like this. If found, please return to. You think the masters don't have a sense of humor? My goodness, look at what a joke so much of our lives are. Just seen from a certain perspective. But you see, even in that laughter, that's our freedom. That's our freedom. That's why we come together for this joyous occasion to remember, I am a child of God. I am eternal bliss. I just have to stop forgetting. All right? Bless you.
Music today that we don't always do. This is we sang a beautiful concert a couple weeks ago, and this is a Mendelssohn piece that we'll perform today. And we have two special pieces at the end of service that you get to sing along with, so stick around.